The Miami Heat's nightmare is over. Jimmy Butler is also going somewhere we didn't think he wanted to go by all accounts. Solo reaction, me, Chris Manning, reacting to Jimmy Butler on a little bonus reaction edition of the Just Basketball Show. Let's get into it.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Oh, LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Chris Manning here, Just Basketball Show. We're going to have a full deadline show tomorrow. Wes Goldberg, who knows the Miami Heat, who knows this Jimmy Butler saga better than anyone that I know, will be here with me to recap this and every other crazy move at the deadline. But we have some news we have to react to. If I had Wes's soundboard, I'd be playing the news siren. We'd be hitting it 7-8 times. But Jimmy Butler is getting sent to the Golden State Warriors. This happened on Wednesday, about an hour and a half before you guys are hearing this. A lot of interesting moving pieces here. Number one, the Warriors, per ESPN, per Shams and the GOAT Brian Windhorst, they closed this deal after Kevin Durant informed the team that he did not want to go to Golden State, did not want to go back to Golden State. So the KD to Golden State thing ended. Kevin Durant did not want to go back. So they move on to Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler, in what is going to be a multi-team mega trade, as the word ESPN is used, is going to the Warriors to play with Steph, to play with Draymond. He's also, and I think this is probably why he's cool with this and not ending up where he really wanted to, which is Phoenix. He's going to decline his $52 million player option and sign a new 2-year, $121 million contract for next year and the year after. Wiggins and Kyle Anderson, a 2025 top 10 protected pick, go to Miami. Dennis Schroeder is going to the Jazz. PJ Tucker going to the Heat. Lindy Waters going to Detroit, and Josh Richardson going from Miami to Detroit as well. It seems also like Kyle Anderson could be on the move elsewhere, so we will see. The most interesting part of this deal to me is that the Warriors went ahead with Jimmy Butler. We'll have time to think about how Jimmy helps this team, if he makes them a title contender, all of that and more. Their odds it's worth noting, have improved somewhat, going from around plus 4,000 at BetMGM to like plus 3,300 in the title race. Went from plus 3,000 to plus 2,000 to win the Western Conference title. So still long odds, but shorter odds than they had. But Jimmy Butler is going somewhere we didn't think he wanted to go. And it's also on the Warriors side, a player that it seemed like there were some reservations from Stephen Curry and Steve Kerr above all else on bringing him in. This is all chips on the table for the Warriors. We have Steph near the end of his career. We have Draymond near the end of his career. We don't have a lot of time left. We have to do something. We need to get an all-star. We have Steph Curry towards the end. We don't have many more years where we can assume we can chase a title with Steph. Let's go for it. And they went and did a deal that has a lot of upside. If you get playoff Jimmy, the ballyhooed, the mythical Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, it has a lot of downside. This could blow up in their faces. This could end up where Jimmy's unhappy in 6 months and he doesn't get along with Draymond, and this becomes an untenable situation. This all blows up in their faces. But they're actively going for something huge here. Now, basketball-wise, it is a piece that fits. Jimmy Butler as a guy who's going to drive, who's going to kick out to Steph when he relocates, who's going to set a demeanor that I think ultimately will help this work out with his attitude and the way he approaches everything, is going to ultimately, I think, fit in with Golden State. They didn't have to give up Kuminga. Maybe they move him somewhere else because I think the spacing now becomes a more of a challenge. Or maybe there's another bigger, bolder move to come here. It hasn't read that as of yet, but that's interesting to me to at least ponder. Maybe not now, but in the summer, if there's a sign and trade to be done. And it's so clear that they felt like they had to do something bold. That standing pat, that just riding this out for even just the rest of this year was not tenable for Mike Dunleavy, for Joe Lacob, for that decision-making group up in Golden State. They did something that is not a half measure. They're not going to keep that first round pick, barring something catastrophic happening. They're paying Jimmy Butler a ton of money on top of the taxes and all of that they're going to pay by being a heavy salary team. And it's an old core. It is 35-year-old Jimmy Butler. It is Draymond Green closer to the end of the beginning. It is Stephen Curry in his mid to late 30s. This is all chips on the table, and it's going to have to get figured out on the fly. And it's a differentiation of the Warriors that we know. This isn't joy basketball that Steve Kerr plays. This isn't going to be kumbaya and good energy from Golden State in the same way that we are used to. This is going to be a little more attitude. This is going to be a little more feisty. This is going to be a little more cantankerous. I mean, Jimmy and Draymond on the same team is two of the most surly, and I mean that in a good way, guys you could have in one locker room. That's going to create a different energy around the Golden State Warriors. The Jimmy part of it, I think you can look at by saying money. There was, per ESPN, a deal on the table where the Warriors, Heat, and Suns had been looking at an agreement that would have put Butler in Phoenix and Durant back in Golden State. Okay. That is off the table. Durant does not want to go back to Golden State. So the Suns get kicked out of this deal. They become huge losers in this whole process. And the Warriors do something that carries more risk, that carries a lot more uncertainty in it. Durant would have been a seamless fit. He just is. It would have been, do they win the title with the group? Maybe not. I don't think they're winning a title necessarily with this group either. But Durant would have been seamless. I mean, it would have been just, we know what that looks like to some degree. It would look different now, but it would still look somewhat the same. This is a whole different look. This is not a bet on a specific type of player or a specific skill set or anything. This is a bet on talent and pedigree and star power. That's what this is for Golden State more than anything else. They are going to give themselves one last big push here, and they're pot committed to it and have given Jimmy the 2-year extension he probably needed to make him happy to go, because everything we heard was that he only wanted Phoenix. He got the money he wanted, and now you have a Jimmy Butler, Draymond, Steph Curry, but mostly a Steph and Jimmy. I think that's the center of this whole thing offensively. That partnership has to help them reach where they want to get. That's the barometer of success here. It is, do they win with that duo or do they not? That is the whole thing here. The Heat gets to move on. They get that pick, which I think is probably going to be at least a decent pick. It's at least another asset to play with. Wiggins and Anderson, I don't think those players matter a ton to them. That would be my first initial thought there. You would think they're not going to be players. 2026 matters to them less now just because Luke is off the board and Fox is off the board, you would think, with the trades that they were involved in earlier before this deadline. So where their next path goes here, it's probably something around Bam and Hero. Where does that look like? That starts here with this trade by just getting out of the Jimmy Butler business. That is clean for them. The Warriors are the one that we are going to learn about how this works the fastest. This is going to be about, does Jimmy mesh with that group? Does the style of play he's going to bring, does it work? And I do think it should work. In a very basic sense, Jimmy on the ball, driving as a very good passer, spraying to Steph, giving them a new wrinkle with his ability to get to the free throw line and attack inside. That's going to give them something they haven't really had in this way ever before in the Steph Curry era. We're going to find out what this looks like shortly, the rest of the season, next year, the year after, assuming it doesn't blow up. But they are making a distinct choice to go do something actively different here. They are doing something to chase a title, and it's going to look different and feel different than anything that has come before for this team. This is unknown territory for the Golden State Warriors. It immediately, along with Luka in LA and Fox in San Antonio with Victor Wembanyama, has made this one of the most fascinating trade deadlines I can ever remember. I cannot, frankly, think of star power moved at a deadline ever quite like this before, with 2K fueled feeling trades here. It's what this feels like. This is a hard deadline to wrap your mind around, and Jimmy Butler in Golden State is going to look and feel different than I think anything we've seen from Golden State and anything where we've seen Jimmy Butler before. This is going to be must watch. It's a real shame due to injury and everything, and I the turnaround, that the possibility of Jimmy and Luka debuting when the Lakers play the Warriors would have been really cool. We're not getting that. But the rest of this year, if you're on the East Coast, staying up late for Warriors games, just to see how this will play out is going to be fascinating. And I am bullish that this is going to work. I am bullish that the differentiation in the offense, the mentality, all of that is going to play in the Warriors' favor. Does it get them a title? That is a very hard bar to clear. The West is loaded. The East is in some ways even more loaded. Do I think this version of this Warriors team right now can beat Oklahoma City this year? Probably not. I would say no. But does this give them a better chance to get one more big run with Steph still around? I think the answer is yes. It is bold. It is risky. It is expensive as all hell. But I think they felt like they had to do this, and I tend to agree with them. They had to, and I think this is the kind of thing you do if you're chasing the highest ceiling possible. You couldn't keep doing the same thing you were doing. The Warriors had to be aggressive like this, chase something big. This is, by definition, big. The Heat move on. And just to hit on the Suns, to maybe end here. The Suns are out in the cold. They're screwed. They were already probably screwed. But you don't get Jimmy. You're maybe considering trading Durant to just facilitate Jimmy, which is a wild thing to consider because you're arguably worse off with Booker, Butler, and Beal than you were with Durant, Booker, and Beal. You're expensive as heck, and I don't even know what they can do now. Is there a Durant trade in the summer? Is there still a Durant trade at the deadline or ends up in Houston or something? Probably not. I think the Suns are just screwed. Maybe there's a Nurkic trade they make. Maybe they do something else on the margins and are marginally better. But that team is absolutely screwed. They're the big losers in all of this. Everyone else, I think you can look at as a winner, even with the risks. Even with the Heat probably would have preferred to not end this disastrously with Jimmy, or this tenuous with Jimmy is maybe a better word. The Warriors get a chance to chase a title. The Heat get to really start resetting and doing something different post-Jimmy. And the Suns are the absolute losers in all of this. Really fascinating trade. We're going to be thinking about this one and all of these deals at this deadline, I think, for a long time. This is, in some ways, just because of the personality involved and everything. It's not quite Luka LeBron in terms of my fascination, but the legacies on the line, the legacy impact on some of this. This is when there is already a really great Stephen Curry bio out there by Marcus Thompson. When like the next one comes out at some point about his whole career, in 10 years, there's going to be some really great chapters on this Jimmy Butler saga, I'm sure. This is as fascinating of a match of personalities and ethos and energies that I could think of as far as Jimmy Butler playing in the Steve Kerr, Stephen Curry Golden State Warriors with Draymond Green on that roster. A lot more to come. Tons to break down tomorrow with Wes when we get our show up late Thursday after the deadline. But what an active trade deadline. The NBA has been firing with all kinds of crazy trades, and maybe we'll get some more before it's all said and done. I'm Chris Manning. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe or review if you've not already. And full episode, myself and Wes Goldberg tomorrow, breaking down the deadline, reacting to every single deal out there on the Just Basketball Show. Talk to you soon.